Welcome to VividBox HQ. I'm walking you through the meeting that could redraw global trade and security for the next 10 years, Trump and Beijing, Xi across the table, and the silence that ends up saying more than any of the speeches. May 13th, Beijing Capital International Airport. The air smells like jet fuel and ceremony. A red carpet, 80 meters of it, has been rolled out across tarmac so fresh you can still see the paint drying. Trump's plane is on final approach. Inside, his briefing folder has one word circled: Taiwan. 6,000 miles away, in a converted warehouse on the outskirts of Shenzhen, a logistics manager named Wei stares at her dashboard. The order book is half of what it was a year ago. She's hoping, praying, that what happens in the next 48 hours fills it back up. This isn't a photo op. This is the meeting that decides whose decade we're living in. Here's where we are. Tariffs on Chinese goods sit at 22%, down from the insane peak of 145 last spring, but still high enough to bleed. American consumers are paying for it at checkout. Iowa soybean farmers, the ones Trump promised to protect, are watching China buy from Brazil instead. But Beijing's wound is deeper. Real estate is still in freefall. Youth unemployment is officially around 15%, unofficially much worse. Consumer spending has gone quiet. Look, both sides are exhausted. Both sides need a story to take home. And only one of them gets to write the headline. She walks in with a number in his head. 28%. That's where he needs the tariff line to land, a 10-point cut from where it sits today. The math is brutal but elegant. For every percentage point off the tariff, Chinese exports recover by roughly the same percentage in volume. A 10-point cut takes year-on-year export declines from 27% down to 17%. That's the difference between Wei's warehouse staying open and not. She will offer purchases in return of soybeans, Boeing jets, liquefied natural gas. The choreography is well rehearsed. But here's the thing. Trump's entire budget math depends on tariff revenue. The room is colder than it should be. Both men know exactly why. Then there's Taiwan. She has one demand: he cannot leave Beijing without raising a U.S. commitment to slow weapons sales to Taipei. For Beijing, this isn't a bargaining chip. It's identity. It's domestic legitimacy. It's the entire architecture of how she sells his rule at home. But here's the trap. Trump can't publicly concede on Taiwan without setting off Congress, the Pentagon, and half the Republican Party. So watch the language. Watch what they don't say. If the final communique skips Taiwan entirely, if there's no joint mention of arms sales, that silences the deal. A quiet handshake. No paper trail. Plausible deniability for both men walking out of that room. And then Iran. Because while everyone is watching the trade columns, the real leverage is hiding in barrels. China imports nearly 90% of Iran's seaborne oil. The U.S. has been quietly tightening secondary sanctions on the tankers, the insurers, the ports. Every barrel China loses access to costs Beijing dollars and credibility. Trump's team knows this. They walked into that room with a card she didn't expect them to play. If Trump offers to ease Iran-related pressure on Chinese refiners even slightly, she has to give something back. Maybe tariffs. Maybe rare earth export controls. Maybe that quiet on Taiwan. The Iran war isn't a sideshow. It's the side door into this deal. Underneath all of it, the dollar. Every clause in this negotiation rides on one assumption: that the Strait of Hormuz stays open and crude keeps flowing. If it doesn't, oil spikes, the dollar surges, emerging markets crack. And China's currency takes the hit first. The yuan slides. Inflation imports itself into every Chinese household. So when you hear them talking about soybeans and semiconductors, they're really talking about oil. And about who controls the plumbing of global money itself. This is why the room was cold. Cold rooms make people make decisions faster. The two men inside it are deciding the price of nearly everything you'll buy next year. 3 ways this ends. Best case, a narrow framework. Tariffs drift down toward the high 20s. China commits to big-ticket purchases. Nobody mentions Taiwan out loud. Markets exhale. Base case, and most analysts privately call this the likeliest outcome, a vague communiqué, another truce extension past the November deadline, no real progress on the structural issues. Rolling truces. Recurring flare-ups. Welcome to the new normal. Breakdown, Trump walks. Or she does. Tariffs snap back, sanctions widen, supply chains hemorrhage again. Reports indicate a comprehensive deal is unlikely before the November midterms. The truce holds, for now. But fragile is the word people keep using. Fragile. 3 things to watch this month. First, the final communiqué. Specifically, count how many times Taiwan appears. 0 mentions means the quiet deal happened. Second, Chinese soybean orders out of the port of Long Beach. If those volumes don't move in the next 30 days, she didn't get what he needed and the truce is rotting from inside. Third, the yuan against the dollar. If Beijing lets it weaken past 7.4, that's the signal that the export math didn't work and China is using devaluation to absorb the tariff pain anyway. None of this is over. The summit is the opening scene, not the closing one. The real story plays out in the data. Watch carefully. That's your VividBox HQ briefing on the Beijing summit. If this changed how you see what's happening, hit like. Share it with one person who's still calling it a photo op. And subscribe so you never miss tomorrow's story. See you tomorrow.